We've got the very best guys.
Patrick!
And the greatest drive. They're the best. I love them. Even though
Patrick!
owes me $5.
Sorry, what?
You guys are excited to get on the tour, but first, a few safety rules.
I'm not sure about that $5 there, Jimmy, but you are correct. We do have a few more safety rules to go before we continue on with the tour. First, if you need guest assistance or have a medical emergency, or if you drop something of value on the side of the tram or have any sound or video issues, reach up and grab the radio cord that runs along the center of the ceiling of the tram, and I'll be back to assist you as soon as it's safe to do so. Otherwise, during the entire tour, please remain safe to keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. Studio is private property. If at any time during the tour you drop your phone or just can't wait to use the restroom, pull the quarter remain seated. Please don't smoke of any kind during the tour. Now be prepared. Our tour today features loud noises, sun, train limits, fire effects, and ventilated water effects. So you want to have any camera shots, great photo opportunities. Keep your eyes open so they don't get wet or lost. Finally, for your safety and the safety of those around you, please do not use selfie sticks while you are on board. Okay, we're done with the rules and the regulations. We can now head on off into the heart of our studio where some of Hollywood's biggest names come to work every single day. Where we have been celebrating, as I said, 60 years of the world-famous studio tour. We're going on 90 years of television making here, and as I mentioned, 110 years of movie making at Universal. It was on March 15th, 1915, when our founder, Carl Lindley, cut the ribbon opening on what used to be the Chicken Ranch to make home the strangest place on earth, Universal City, an entire city dedicated to the making of motion pictures. Folks, we are an actual city here. We have our own zip code, we've got our very own sheriff substation, we've got 3 Starbucks, and we have our very own LAFD fire station 51 coming up over here on your right hand side. Show the firefighters some love and respect as we pass by, as they fought alongside the other LAFD firefighters around LA during the devastating wildfires that affected our city just a few weeks ago. We salute them, thank them for their service and protecting the outside community as well as our community here in the lot. The lot of which we are going to explore today, which is divided into 2 sections, a front lot and a back lot. We are going to start with the front lot, which contains mainly sound stages. We have 36 sound stages in total on the entire lot, filming most of the interiors, the insides of places. But we can fake the outside inside because we control the lights, the sound, even the weather in these fashion places. And if you want to know what they look like, take a look to your left. You see they look like that. The very exciting Big Square Building. Yeah, what a great way to start the tour. Actually, that one is exciting, and the Soundstage 12 is the largest and oldest soundstage in our lot. It's housed some of the largest sets in movie history, going all the way back to the classic monster movies. Scarface right now, Pacino filmed in there, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, amongst many, many others. And as we cross the intersection here, you're going to see some more sound stages. Sound stages 11 through 7 on your left-hand side. Our sound stages, depending on how old they are, range anywhere between 98% and 99.99% soundproof. The walls are 4 times the thickness of the walls in your home. And if you look inside the doors, you can see them setting up for production inside of the sound stages. When they're empty, they look like they do on the screen here. And what can you construct or build inside of these sound stages? Anything your imagination can come up with. For example, we're passing Soundstage 7 right now, and I'm a big horror fan. One of probably the most famous and grisly murder in all of film history took place in 7. The shower scene from Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Now, very recently in 8, 7, and 14, coming up on your left, those 3 sound stages, they just wrapped season 3 of the dramatic reimagining of the 90s hit TV sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Bel-Air films in those 3 sound stages, and any Bel-Air fans know that Will and Carlton go to Bel-Air Academy. The school? Well, it's not a real school. Anytime you see them wandering around the halls of Bel-Air Academy, they're actually walking around inside Soundstage 14 here on your left. Just an example of the types of interiors we can build. But remember, I said we can fake the outside inside them because we can control the light, sound, and even the weather. For example, Jurassic Park. Any Jurassic Park fans out there may remember a scene from the first film. Oh, lots of hands went up my party tram right there, yes. So you may remember the scene in Jurassic Park where Dr. Grant, Timmy, and Lexi have been running from dinos all day, and they're a little tired, so they climb into the tree to get some sleep. They fall asleep and they wake up the next morning and the Brachiosaur's there. They feed it for a moment, and eventually the Brachiosaur sneezes all over Lexi, and Timmy says, "God bless you." Yeah, they were not on an island off the coast of Costa Rica. They were here in the lot inside Soundstage 14. Just one of the many films that is filmed in our sound stages, but our sound stages are mostly used for television. Now, with all the streaming services and cable networks, etc., and as I mentioned, no stranger to television, because we have spent almost 90 years creating some of the biggest and most popular television shows in history. With just a handful of those you can see up on your screen, with many more filming in the sound stages over on your right. my Gen Xers out there, during the 70s and part of the 80s, sitcoms, different strokes and silver spoons, one day at a time, facts applied coach, Who's the Boss, the Jeffersons, amongst many, many others. And more recent comedies to film there. One of them stars this gentleman over here on your left-hand side. You were not mistaken. That is my Thunder Buddy for life, Ted, the star of Ted, Ted 2, and the Ted prequel series streaming on Peacock. Who's watching Ted? Okay, good. None of the young kids raised their hands. Otherwise, I would spend the remainder of the tour silently trying to get parents. It is, you big liar back there in car number 2. I saw him shake his hand up there. It is a mature audiences only show. Very funny though, extremely hysterical. Got Seth MacFarlane, who voices Ted, as the executive producer, has a bungalow here on the lot, which are these buildings on your left. Excuse me. The bungalows used to be dressing rooms for some of Hollywood's biggest names at the time. Rock Hudson, Jimmy Stewart, Lucille Ball, Doris Day, Tony Curtis, just to name a few. A home away from home, as they were working and contracted by the individual studios. They were spending a lot of hours here. They wanted to be as comfortable as possible. But now they're being used by writers, producers, directors. For example, you see the white sign that has the letters MP on it with a balloon for Wicked defying gravity. That is Mark Platt Productions. He is the executive producer of Wicked on Broadway, as well as the most successful musical feature of all time, Wicked, starring Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, which brought home a couple of Academy Awards for us this past Oscars. And as we pass the bungalows, you're going to see Soundstage 25, still on your left, with a billboard for Lopez versus Lopez. That is where George Lopez films his comedy, starring he and his real-life daughter, Mayan Lopez, in Lopez versus Lopez. Now, these buildings in front of 25, these actually are the production offices for 25 and 26. We're going to pass 26 in a moment. These production offices here, everything that can be done in the front lot can be done right here in this building. This is where their own wardrobe department, they can do all the sound and video editing and post-production. They just take whatever that they've recorded and run it up the stairs. The writer's room is on the second level there. And that is used for Lopez versus Lopez, as well as what's filming in 26. You'll see the billboard for St. Dennis Medical, NBC's newest medical comedy starring David Allen Greer of In Living Color fame and Wendy McClendon-Covey, who of course played Beverly Goldberg on Goldberg. The interior, the inside of the hospital on the show, is actually inside Soundstage 26. So when you're wandering around the hospital, they're in here. The outside of the hospital, however, is in our back lot, which is where we are arriving now. The back lot is where we film all the big stuff, the big exteriors, the outside stuff on a very grand scale. Looks like they're setting up for some sort of production on the corner there of part of our metro sets, which are favorites with filmmakers from around the world. They come from all over to film here. Now, one area they love to film on, Brownstone Street, still on your right, gets the name from the brownstones across the way, which you may remember from a little film called Bruce Almighty, starring Jim Carrey. Right there, the stairs Jim Carrey is running down on your screen, those are the same stairs here. They're also the same brownstones that were under construction because they belong to Kevin McAllister's aunt and uncle in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Yep. And then across from the brownstones, you'll see the outside of the hospital, St. Dennis Medical, across the way there. That is the front of the hospital. So when you see them outside the hospital, they're filming right here. They open the door to go in, they yell cut. And then later on, they'll take everything inside and film them from inside the interior sets, and then walking in, piece it together to make it look like they're in one building, when the reality is they're not. But we're going to leave the residential area of the big city behind, and we're going to head to a smaller city. I want everybody to look to your left at the end of the street where that white truck is, and I want you to imagine there's a theater at the end of that street. And now I want you to imagine that there's a time machine blazing down that street at 88 miles an hour to take a young Marty McFly from 1955 back to 1985. Yes, folks, this is it. We're here. The most famous, popular, and recognizable area of Vermont, Courthouse Square, otherwise known as Hill Valley, from Back to the Future. This area of Courthouse Square was always believed it would be remembered for the classic film To Kill a Mockingbird starring Gregory Peck. This was Alabama in that film, and that was the front of the courthouse. The first episode of The Twilight Zone was another that they thought it would be remembered for. Where is everybody? The name of the episode. But in 1985, Back to the Future hits the big screen and changes this area forever. So much so that nobody wanted to film here anymore. Why? Because if they filmed scenes here in their projects and they came up in the story, entire audiences were being taken out of the story saying, why are they walking around Hill Valley and Back to the Future? So they had to change some things. The television series came along, said we want to change some stuff. You'll notice the big white pillars are missing on the front of the courthouse. They're actually still there. They just built a set right in front of it. The firehouse on your right-hand side went in, and there was a gazebo that was in the middle of the grassy area there. And all the changes were made when they started filming The Ghost Whisperer, starring Jennifer Love Hewitt, which ran for 7 seasons. And during that time, not once did anybody say, why are they in Hill Valley from Back to the Future? As we now leave the small city of Hill Valley behind and enter the big city, the Big Apple, our New York metropolitan, so that's for somebody I know who works in the metro area, and you do too. It is my co-host. Let's check back up with him. What's going on, Jimmy?
Hey everyone, welcome to New York! I got my start right here in New York on Saturday Night Live. This is actually my old neighborhood. Once got mugged over there by an old woman. Tough lady. This is my favorite hot dog guy. Hey buddy, how's it going? Remember me? No. Just like old times. Gotta love New York City. Hey! I'm walking here! Hey, it's cool guys. I was just walking there. So it's not exactly New York, but a lot of times when you see New York in the movies, it was shot right here on the Universal Metro sets. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Even if you make it here on the Universal lot.
Television shows that have used these sets. American Ninja Warrior fans out there, if you believe during the LA qualifiers there in downtown LA, you are mistaken. They build the obstacle courses here in the middle of our Metro sets. The Mindy Project starring Mindy Kaling spent 6 years filming out here. Other films that have filmed out here. Captain America, the First Avenger, starring Chris Evans as Steve Rogers when he goes chasing the agent of Hydra. Barefoot through the streets and across the city of New York, running through alleyways, getting pushed into windows, over cars. They weren't anywhere near New York. Chris Evans was running circles in our metro sets right here in the faux concrete jungle of the big city. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments, but right now we're headed off to the prehistoric jungle of Skull Island, home to the legendary 8th wonder of the world, King Kong. Here's Sir Peter Jackson.
It's the original King Kong that made me want to direct movies. I saw that movie on TV when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I wanted to become a filmmaker. I like films that just take you away from your real life and sweep you up into an energy. Kong literally does that. I mean, you're on board the ship, you're sailing to a lost island, you encounter monsters and creatures from prehistoric times. So I was thrilled when Universal invited me back to Skull Island, and it's great to have you along for the ride. Now we have created this 3D immersive experience, so you're going to have to put your glasses ready. Don't look on yet, but just have them in your hand because we're about to return to Skull Island.
Yeah, that was a big tease by Peter Jackson. Folks, in just a moment, we are going to be returning to Skull Island as it was portrayed in Peter Jackson's version of King Kong, which was the 3rd big screen iteration of Kong. The one before it was a film that came out in 1976 starring Charles Grodin, Jeff Bridges, and Jessica Lange in her very first major starring role. And Kong was created by multi-special effects makeup Academy Award winner Rick Baker. Rick Baker winning the first of those awards for American Werewolf in London. But he was the authority on primates. Gorillas in the Mist was Sigourney Weaver. He did the primates for that. Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. Harry and the Hendersons, he created Harry. And he was responsible for turning Michael Jackson into the werewolf at the beginning of the Thriller video. And before that, the black and white RKO film, the first film inspiring Mr. Peter Jackson, the Kong in that was a stop motion claymation puppet that was only 18 inches tall. 1.5 foot is all the taller that Kong is. And the way they make Kong move is they take a frame of footage, basically a picture, and then move it a little. Frame of footage, move it a little. After doing that 24 times, they have 1 second of moving footage. Long, arduous process. Special effects have come a long way since then. We're about to see how far as we are now returning to Skull Island. So please remain in your seats, hang on to your belongings. Glasses on, everyone. King Kong 360 3D was brought to Universal Studios Hollywood by FX and Academy Award-winning director Peter Jackson. This epic battle was created using some of the most advanced filmmaking technology today and projected on some of the largest 3D screens in the world. Standing at 40 feet high and 180 feet long, they are definitely big enough for the mighty King Kong 360 3D, brought to us by Sir Peter Jackson and FX, the multi-award-winning special effects house out of New Zealand, who won one of their Academy Awards for Avatar 2, The Way of Water. That's just an example of the types of entire worlds here that they can build through the process known as CGI, computer-generated images. However, I believe that the combination of CGI, which is wonderful, but with practical sets, like our Metro sets over here, are the best for everyone involved. The actors actually have something tangible to stand on, to look at, to see, to immerse themselves in that world, in the moment. And no better example than our Metro sets here. We call them our New York metropolitan sets because they have been used to represent New York more than any other big city in the world. I already mentioned Captain America: The First Avenger, but a couple of Spider-Men have slowed through that area. Tobey Maguire's and Andrew Garfield's. But we can turn the area into any big city we want in the world. For example, it was London in the 60s for Austin Powers and Spy Who Shagged Me, the opening dance number. And then Hobbs and Shaw, Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, the spin-off. There was a big car chase that went racing through the streets and across the city of London, where they were driving all fast and furiously because that's the name of the franchise. Most of that car chase took place in our Metro sets. Now, how did they turn the area into London? The first thing they did is, in the story, they told you that's where they were. And then they put some red phone booths on the corners and hung the national flag, Yukon Jack, off the sides of the structures. And that's it. Just dress the sets right, tell you that's where you are. Suspension of disbelief. These also aren't real buildings. They're structures, but not buildings. They're what we call facades, shells, and practicals. Facade means false front. We only build the fronts and the sides of the structures that are going to be seen. Only what the camera needs to see. Shells finished on the outside, nothing on the outside. If we're not going to show it to you, we're not going to build it. If we are, it'll be in a soundstage like the ones across the way here. Soundstage is 30 and 31 on your left. That is where we now film The Voice.
Hey, what's up, Studio Tour? It's Kelsey Ballerini.
And I am John Legend from The Voice. And we shoot our show right here in Stage 31, one of the newest stages on the lot.
These state-of-the-art sound stages allow us to bring our show to life, from the blinds to the lives and everything in between.
Everyone's talking about the new voice coaches, even the new voice coaches.
You see that gorgeous face?
Go on. I need to put these boys in their place.
Daddy's a big baby.
So that's how it's gonna be.
The Voice, Monday on NBC and Peacock.
Next door to The Voice in 32 and 33, Reba McEntire films her comedy Happy's Place, which airs on NBC. And all of those sound stages on the opposite side of this watery area that you saw, it's not just a big fountain, it's what we call Park Lake. Park Lake, the Hollywood Ocean as we refer to it as, because it can be used as any large body of water in the world. For example, it could represent and be the Gulf of Mexico. It was the entire Pacific Ocean for U-751 starring Matthew McConaughey with the subsurface. They weren't actual subs, they were miniatures floating around there. However, it is mostly known and recognized as the Amazon River in the lagoon. In the horror classic Creature from the Black Lagoon, one of our Universal monsters added to the roster in 1954. Now that roster consisting of what I like to call the OGs, the original ghouls, Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, etc., and all them filmed in the area we're headed next, the area known as Little Europe. These are some of the oldest sets in our backlot, some of them dating all the way back to the silent film era. May not look as scary as they did when we filmed our monster movies, because the last major production to film in here for a great length of time was 4 seasons of a television show of ours starring Ted Danson and Kristen Bell called The Good Place, because Little Europe was a good place.
You, Eleanor Shellstrom, are dead.
Cool.
This location, the afterlife, I've never ever seen this. You're in the good place.
I'm not supposed to be here.
Pause that there. See that yogurt shop? We're passing it on your left-hand side. That's called a practical set. It means they can film on the inside and outside. Much more convenient. Seamlessly move it and out. You don't have to drag all the way to a sound stage. The alleyway next to it we call Pirates Corner because all of Little Europe was used for Pirates of the Caribbean and the Curse of the Black Pearl, starring Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. But the most important area here, most sacred area, is the area on your right-hand side you're seeing right now. This courtyard doesn't look like much, but it is known as the Court of Miracles. It was originally added to Little Europe for a silent film that was released in 1923 called The Hunchback of Notre Dame, starring Lon Chaney, the man of 1,000 faces, who played Quasimodo in that film. But it would be 8 years later that area was no longer used as France, or wasn't used as France. It was the center of town in Transylvania, in the first of what would be known as the block of Universal monster movies, Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi as Dracula. That same year, the angry villagers carrying their pitchforks and torches would chase down Frankenstein's monster in the classic film Frankenstein. The Universal monster characters and films are the most important films to ever come out of Universal. You saw that mural that we passed as we were going by the Metro sets. That's for a reason. That is how important these characters and films were. What was going on at the time that these films were released? Dracula was released in 1931, the Great Depression. Movie making is a business just like anything else. Movie making was still kind of in its infancy at the time. So the studios were trying to figure out a way to stave off bankruptcy. And in their panic, the majority of them sold off the most valuable thing they had in their arsenal to put money in their pocket, and that was their land. Our founder, Carl Lemley, took a breath and said, hold on a second. These studios are still going to need to make films to try to ride out this financial storm, and they just sold off their most valuable asset in doing so, a place to film. So what did Carl Lemley do? Uncle Carl, as he was known. He kept his land, and he rented it to all of the other studios, which we still do today. And then he took a portion of that money and invested in more land, which is why up until recently, we were the largest studio in the world. Tyler Perry now holds that title out in Atlanta. He now has more acreage, and we are unable, for zoning and whatnot, able to expand any farther than we are. But he now has the largest studio in the world. Congratulations to him. But Carl Lemley bought more land, and then he took another portion of that and invested in these dark cult films he had seen 10 years before overseas with his son, and said, keep these in our back pocket. We might need them later. And some of the major studios focused on just one type of genre during that time. Warner Brothers focused on the gangster films. MGM focused on the musicals. And then we decided to focus on these dark films that would eventually be known as the Universal Monster movies. Dracula, the first one to come out in 1931, they had no idea how to promote this film. Nobody had ever really seen anything like this before. I mean, they had dabbled in the silent film era with Phantom of the Opera and Hunchback, but now all of a sudden we got sound and nobody's really touched it. So they decided to release it and promote it as a romantic thriller. And they released it on Valentine's weekend, Friday the 13th of all days. People flocked to the theaters to forget their troubles for a little bit, say, oh, let's go see what this new romantic thriller is and feel good about ourselves. And what do you think happened? People freaked out. They were passing out in the theaters. There were people, women were just fainting and getting the vapors in the gutters. Help me, Jesus! I mean, they had to have medics at the theaters in case there was some sort of medical crisis that went on. And what happens when people hear about this phenomenon who haven't seen the film yet? They all want to go see it for themselves, which is exactly what we do today. And so they rush to the theater to see it. The studio says, that was amazing, let's get the next film out as quickly as possible. So the same year, 1931, they released Frankenstein, starring Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster, and it becomes a bigger hit than Dracula. It makes Boris Karloff the biggest name in Hollywood for over a decade. The Universal, and then they were followed by The Wolfman, The Mummy, etc. The Universal monster movies saved the studio from bankruptcy. Chances are, studio goes belly up, and we don't take this tour today. But they changed cinema forever again in that same time because they introduced the world to the genre of film that we now know as horror. This is the birthplace of the modern horror film. We were the ones that injected horror into the mainstream. So without our Universal monsters, there is no Michael Myers, there is no Jason Voorhees, no Freddy Krueger, no Chucky, no Pinhead, no Leatherface, no Ghostface, none of the faces happen without our Universal monsters, all filmed right out there in Little Europe.
When we think of Beatles, we think of monsters. Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera. Classic films. They're just brilliantly made.
That Frankenstein image, flathead, balls, it's one of the great icons of the world.
That to me was like the essence of the Universal horror film. I was just mesmerized by these movies.
Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney.
I remember the original Universal Studios Mummy movie really scaring me.
They still ring in our memories now, and we love them.
Yes, we do. And our Universal monsters also hold another title. Not only do they introduce horror to the world, however, we're all familiar with a shared cinematic universe. The MCU has perfected it over there. Disney with Marvel, they weren't the first ones to do it. First characters to ever, from different films, share a cinematic universe. Two of our Universal monsters ever. It was Frankenstein meets the Wolfman in 1942. The first that's ever happened. So our Universal monsters have paved the way on so many levels throughout cinema. Now, we've got something real special here for you folks. We have been given permission to bring you inside Soundstage 50 so you can get a first-hand look as to what it appears like on the inside of a soundstage while it's being used for a production. This is a hot set, which is any set that is being dressed or is dressed and ready for filming. Nobody anywhere is allowed to touch anything. Not that we're going to be getting out of the seats. Take all the pictures and videos you want. You are absolutely allowed. And what did the imagination of the production come up with to build in here? A subway station in San Francisco. How do we know that's what it is? There are literally signs everywhere telling you that. Welcome to San Francisco. Okay, this is California. Time to time. Take past fairly quickly, so nothing to worry about remaining. So take a look to your left. And you'll notice that the ceilings collapsed up against them. I'm sure that's just a picture of a pump truck. It's not actually filled with gas. starring Shining Princess called Bone. The TV show Bone started here before the August episode Bones on the Blu-ray. It was also featured in Beverly Hills Cop 3, starring Eddie Murphy. One of the slogans for Universal used to be Universal Studios, where the world is just around the corner. We've already proven that to be true. We've gone through what could be any big city in the world, what could be any small city in Europe, small town in Europe. We stopped in San Francisco, and because we can, I think it's high time we take everyone to the beach. Specifically the beaches of Amity, which of course is the setting of Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg. Now mind you, they did not film Jaws here in the lot. It was filmed entirely on location in Martha's Vineyard on the East Coast. We just rebuilt it here, bring guests to it from time to time. It is perfectly safe. These are shark-free waters, except for that one that's now circling. Wait, I know that diver. That's Steve. What? Hey, Steve! I don't think it's a good idea for you to be in your head. What, you just gonna wrestle that shark anyway? I'll give you this. You certainly got guts. There they are. Scoop Steve, damn you! He was a good shot. Folks, I'm going to ask everyone to please remain in their seats as we arrive at a safer spot, which I'm being told is only 30 feet down the stack behind these large barrels. Gasoline. Look at possibly go wrong. Oh! Well, at least it's a bit warmer. Lighten up a little fish fry. What's that coming up on the right-hand side? Oh no! Oh! Folks, big round of applause for Bruce the Shark Jaws. Now we've got a full trailer here. I'm assuming there are many people who've seen Jaws, as it does turn 50 this year. But show of hands, who's seen Jaws? All right, can you tell me what kind of shark it was in the film? Great white? Great white is a great guess. It is incorrect. It was a mechanical shark, very much like the one we have. Now, the difference between our mechanical shark and the 3 that Steven Spielberg used is that ours works pretty much all the time. Not the case with Steven's sharks. Anybody familiar with the background of Jaws knows it was one of the most problematically plagued productions of all time. One of the big reasons was because Steven wanted to film in the open water, in the actual ocean. Don't film in nature if you don't have to. Why? You can't control nature. You can't keep the wind from blowing, the sun from sunning. You can't control the weather. You can control those things here in the lot. How? We're about to show you. As we rolled into Old Mexico here, we're going to put on a little weather demonstration for you and show you. We're on the inside of the sound stage. So for fun, we've got some thunder from speakers like it. Now we're going to make it rain using the highest of high-tech equipment known as sprinklers. And that's it. We're shooting water in the air, some falls earth, and breaks apart. It looks like rain. Now we must backlight this effect when we film it, otherwise you will not see it here on the screen. Anybody who's a sports fan has watched a game where it's apparently coming down, but it's really coming down here in Pittsburgh. But you look at the then we show the steam. It's just monsoon. Every which way, the same thing here. The difference is we can turn the weather off whenever we want. We can make this as you like. Isolated in just one spot, even if we're inside the sound stage. It helps everybody take the time to avoid the disasters that can happen. Go like that. I guess we should folks, that is our last one city there. Don't worry, we're not wasting water. Recycling water. That's the oldest attraction here on the street. The views of film and television may recognize this area from such films as Not So Rico, Straight Jacket, Straight Jacket, Janet Jackson filmed an escapade video here. Any Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans out there, this was an area in China for the Boxer Rebellion for Spike's first Slayer kill. And we've now crossed the border out of Old Mexico and into the Old West, the area known as 6 Points. These are the oldest sets in our backlot, most of them dating back to the silent film era. Some of Hollywood's most famous cowboys have moseyed on down these streets: Kirk Douglas, Clint Eastwood, the Duke himself, John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, amongst many others. The westerns, of course, are bread and butter during that silent film era. More westerns have been filmed here at Universal than anywhere else in the world, and Universal, as a studio on its own, holds a record that will never be beaten. During that silent film era, they managed to film over 250 westerns in 365 days, 1 year. Now, the way they were able to do that is because, one, those films were only about 15 to 20 minutes long, but two, this area of 6 Points is named that for a reason. 6 streets go to the center of town, and each street can be its own town, its own bank, saloon, bar, whatever. And during the silent film era, they could film 6 westerns at once in the same space. Now, how can they do that without them interfering with each other? It was the silent film era. Nobody was recording sound, so you could make all the noise on one production, never going to interfere with the next. Other productions that have filmed here: The Color Purple, starring Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey, directed by Steven Spielberg. The end, Celia opens her dress shop right here in 6 Points. And 2019, a little epic called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, directed by Quentin Tarantino. About 45 minutes of the film took place right out there in 6 Points. We are approximately at the halfway point of the world-famous studio tour. Just want to remind everybody to remain seated during the entire tour. The studio is private property. Anytime during the tour, pull the right cord to get my attention. I'll be back in a second. Do remain seated on the track. Now you're going to see the side of 6 Points here, and you're going to get a good look at the facades, what they look like. See this wall here? It's got a window clearly on the other side. You frame that up, it looks like the front of a building, or at least a wall, but you go behind it, there's nothing there. We're not going to show it to you, we're not going to build it. The shells inside, you see the stairs going to the windows. That's just to dress them, to make it look like that there's something going on in there, but an actor or character doesn't go into every apartment building, hotel, restaurant they pass on the street, but it's still got to look like a real city. Even the bricks that you see here, not real bricks, they're what we call skins. Barely a quarter of an inch thick, made no fiberglass, plastic, or plaster. We can press out right here in the line. All the production needs to do is make a phone call. Say, I need this pattern, this color to fit this frame. They will press it, cut it, paint it, bring it out, pull the old ones down, put the new ones up. Could take 1 day. Even a place as big as the metro area, because they're only being held up by staples and nails. Now in a moment we're going to pass by Amity once again. Amity has also been used in film and television. It's not just for the Jaws attraction. Key and Peele did some filming out there. But I want you to see Cabot Cove written on the side of the boathouse on your right-hand side. Cabot Cove was the hometown to Jessica Fletcher, played by Angela Lansbury, and every kid's favorite show growing up, Murder, She Wrote, because there is nothing kids love more than watching senior citizens solve crime. As I said, Jaws turns 50, and the film itself, even with all its problems, went on to be one of the biggest hits of all time. In fact, it was the very first summer blockbuster ever. And wanting to capitalize on that, they wanted to make an attraction for the based off Jaws. So less than a year after the film hit theaters, the Jaws attraction opened to the public.
My entire career began with my relationship with Universal Studios just as a high school kid on a tour bus. Remember, in those days there weren't trams, there were buses called the Grey Line Tour Bus. And I was so excited and thrilled to be on the lot. It was my first time ever on a movie studio lot. And during a bathroom break, I hid in the bathroom, and when everybody left to get back on the bus, I waited another 15 minutes until I'm sure the bus left, and then I had the entire lot to myself that day. And in those days, movie lots were so crowded because all movies were made on film lots. Today they're made all over the world, on locations, but most of it was focused in those days, in the 60s, on the film lots. So nobody noticed me when I was going around from soundstage to soundstage, and I really felt, in my own young way, I owned the lot and had the most amazing day of my life.
Now, I don't encourage anybody to try to do the same thing. Security's much different now. But Jaws becoming such a huge hit, he not only got an attraction, he got a street named after him, Steven Spielberg Drive, the longest road here in the lot, the one we're on right now. You saw those vehicles parked out there on the left-hand side. Those cars are going to be used in a television series called The Burbs that is filming in that area of Colonial Street, based off of the comedy starring Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher from the 80s. It takes place in the same neighborhood they filmed the film, starring Emmy Award-winner Keke Palmer. And those vehicles will appear in the series. And when they do appear on screen, they're going to become what are known as picture cars. What is a picture car? It is any car or vehicle, whether it's driven or not, that appears on the screen in the film or project. Don't worry, she'll be fine. And we got some very famous picture cars coming up on your left and your right over here. Over here on your left-hand side, you're going to see a gyrosphere from Jurassic World as well as a Jeep from Jurassic Park. Over on your right, you're going to see some of the flying vehicles. From the distant future of 2015 from Back to the Future 2. And then back over here to your left, a collection not complete without some of the fleet for the most successful Universal franchise of all time, Fast and Furious. And all of them parked out back of this motel. I'm going to ask the gentleman to take a seat. There we go. As we arrive at this motel, where there always seem to be 12 rooms, 12 vacancies, probably due to the fact that it's the most infamous motel in cinema history, and that is the Bates Motel, home to Norman Bates in The Sage and Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Yes, his masterpiece coming out in 1960, and Norman coming out of room number 1. What's he doing? Hey Norman, what's going on, buddy? What's he doing? You just telling that lady to her car there? And you're just going to put her right there in the trunk? Is it good for her back? All that lumbar support. Hey, we were just stopped by to say hi, but you look extremely busy. We're going to let you get to it. As he reaches into a pocket and pulls out a knife. We got to go! No, Norman, we all showered today, thank you. I don't know if we're going to hear. Say hi to your mother for me. Folks, you can say hi to mother yourself. Why are you waving at the psychopath with a knife? You're one of those people who watches the True Crime Promise and then roots for Ted Bundy, aren't you? Freaks on this tour.
Oh my God, what's that?
And as we make our way around the back of the Bates Mansion, we find ourselves rolling into what I believe to be the most impressive set in our backline. The airplane crash site for War of the Worlds, directed by Steven Spielberg. The most frequently asked question about this particular set is that an actual 747? And the answer is yes. It is a decommissioned 747 acquired out of the airplane graveyard in the Mojave Desert at the bargain price of $16,000. Pretty darn cheap. However, the shipping and handling to get it here was $200,000, and they had to bring it here in 4 separate pieces.
The airplane crash perfect that was all designed around visions. You forget to sit down and talk about war of the world. I thought, what if the 747 go down right in the big neighborhood? Because it's just something you don't see. You're doing good. Now what's your pleasure, okay? Now close. Robbie, get in. Get in.
It took the crew 3 months to build this set. It took them 3 days to build the scene. For it to spend roughly 4 minutes moving. We are approximately 10 minutes from the end of the tour. We'll be returning to the theme park shortly. Remember to pull the emergency cord if you need assistance and remain seated at all times. Now, we have just taken you through 2 sets from 2 films brought to us by 2 generations of writing directors, Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock, War of the Worlds, Steven Spielberg. And we're about to take you to another. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take you to Jupiter's Claim from Jordan Peele's sci-fi thriller Nope. Tell you more about it, the man himself, Mr. Jordan Peele.
Movie magic only happens when a team of collaborators, often in the hundreds, work together to take an impossible notion and bring it to life. This is Jupiter's Claim, a nostalgic, small-time Southern California amusement park owned by former child star Ricky June Park. Over there, look into the winking well and have your picture taken just like the kids in that old 90s movie Kid Show. That's what this whole place is loosely based on. Remember that one? No? What? A little further down, you can see the brand new Star Lasso experience. Built to showcase an unbelievable new live show. It's not looking so live anymore. Anyway, behind this Hollywood fantasy of a gold rush frontier town lies a sinister secret. It is smack dab in the center of a UFO hotspot. Welcome to the world of New York.
Sunset as well. For those of you looking around wondering what was supposed to happen who haven't seen the film, we didn't want to spoil anything for anybody. Newest addition to the studio tour here. These sets were actually built and filmed on in Santa Clarita. When they got done filming, they carefully disassembled them, brought them here, reassembled them in front of Falls Lake. They opened for the studio tour on the exact same day that the film opened in theaters. So we didn't want, it was the first time that's happened in studio tour history. We didn't want to spoil anything. But not only the newest addition to the tour, but in front of Falls Lake, which is this area right on over here on your right-hand side that we don't get to talk about much anymore. It is Falls Lake. Falls Lake is a man-made lake that Universal built in the 50s. It's actually the lagoon where Norman Bates dumped Marion Crane's car after the infamous shower scene in Psycho. But that big blue backdrop was built for this next clip coming up right here. Yes, Jaws the Revenge. It is the largest freestanding backdrop in the world. That's the backdrop. Those aren't real clouds. They aren't in the Caribbean. They were floating around out there. You may actually, that area right there is also the edge of the world. At the end of the Truman Show, Jim Carrey runs his little boat into the wall of the dome, where Tom Hanks has spent a lot of time out there crashing into water with Apollo 13 and Sully. And it's films like these, the ones that we flock to the theaters to see, the ones that make us laugh, the ones that make us cry, the ones that inspire us to become something, not just writers, actors, or directors in the industry, but who we may become in our own lives. Some of you may have become who you are because of something, some story that was told. And the kids, it may inspire them to become who they're going to be. This type of art, this medium that we love, known as filmmaking on the larger, small screen, can educate us and make us see things from a different point of view that we may not have thought of before, and that is what we celebrate here on the studio tour. And that will also bring us to the end of our studio tour. Just want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. While we're out, I need you to put your hands up a few times for the nerves and steel behind the wheel who got us around safely and sound and home in one piece. Our driver, James, as we are going to pull into the unload area, and I'll be off to the left-hand side to answer any questions that you may have. And as you're making your way back inside the park, here's a little insider tip. Why don't you go ahead and download the Universal Studios Hollywood app? It's free. That way you can stay up to the minute on wait time, show times, and park hours. For example, to see when the next show in Waterworld, a live scene where spectacular will be, and that the park will remain open tonight until 7 p.m. You can also get more information on the other goings-on at Universal Destinations and Experiences. For example, learn more information about the new area out in Las Vegas opening very soon here, Universal Horror Unleashed, as well as Universal Studios Orlando with the opening of Epic Universe. And here at Universal Studios Hollywood, plan to come back the same old day to celebrate the best of sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, and anime at the all-new Universal Fan Fest nights. Experience your favorite franchises every event night all in one place. To find out more and purchase tickets, you can go to UniversalStudiosHollywood.com or check it out on the app. If you would like to purchase any of the TV shows or films you saw or heard about on the tour, you can go to www.uphe.com or ask at any of our retail stores today. And with all of that being said, my name is Patrick. On behalf of myself, James, and everyone here at NBC Universal, we hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here at Universal Studios Hollywood. Have a good day, everyone.